William Hill sponsors Joshua versus Molina on Sky Sports Box Office.
Radio Raheem here with Sky Sports' Adam Smith. Boy, talk about a guy that's been in the middle of the fray the last couple of weeks. Have you ever had a couple of build-up weeks like you've had these last two?
Listen, you're dealing with the heavyweights and you're dealing with volatile heavyweights. You know, maybe let's take Anthony Joshua and Eric Molina aside as role models. They've been wonderfully respectful towards each other. That when we announced the David Haye and Tony Bellew fight, we knew that there's no love lost there. We've known about Dylan White and Derek Chisora having no love lost as well. So it's difficult, you know, there's a fine line between hyping a fight and making people really want to watch it, and then there's behavior that's not responsible and not right, and you know, kids are watching out there and we don't want to turn it into a sort of WWE sideshow, you know. So I think Derek Chisora, what he did yesterday was wrong. He knows what he did was wrong. The board will decide what they're going to do. Ultimately, no one was hurt, which is the most important thing from my point of view. We had a similar issue in the Gloves Are Off in the Sky Studios. And we've done many Gloves Are Off. Many Gloves Are Off where there's great needle and great friction between the pair. This boiled over. It was dealt with. Security were excellent. And they went on their separate ways. It was diffused again yesterday. But it's up to the board to decide what they want to do with that particular fight. You know, as a fight, it's a great fight. And obviously, it's got a huge amount of public interest. I think it's careful here to make sure that we do say that, you know, what happened yesterday is a bad day for boxing. It's not right. Behavior that wasn't good, and you know, kids are looking up to them. But you know, these guys are, you know, they're about to fight, and if there is something said or whatever, they can react in different ways. You know, they're human beings and they react the way they react, but they've also got a professionalism that they've got to abide by. And the most important thing for me was, after it happened, was having Derek calm down as quickly as possible, which I think he did. You know, a few minutes later he was chatting away, but you know, ultimately the board will look at it this afternoon and make their decision, and we wait and see.
Chisora mentioned to me after the fight that, after the press conference, that, you know, where the line was crossed was that White threatened his life. And we all heard that take place. Obviously, there's a lot of talk that goes on between fighters, but do you feel like that's where a line is crossed? And did he have some justification in reacting the way he did?
Yeah, I thought what Dylan said was wrong. And I think he had somebody alongside him, I'm not sure, a friend, who was saying, you know, just talk about Saturday, don't talk about in the streets and what happens beyond, you know. But I think that, you know, sometimes they just don't think properly, or they're just trying to wind each other up too much. And, you know, as I said, there is a fine line. Remember when Carl Froch and George Groves, they didn't like each other at all. But, you know, we never descended into that. You know, it's we've had it with Tony Bellew and Nathan Cleverly before. We've had it with Amir Khan and Kell Brooks sitting on our ringside set. You know, when they behave respectfully to each other, but they just don't like each other, it's great. It's when it just seeps out into, you know, unsavory stuff and obviously physical, you know, problems. I mean, fortunately, no punches were thrown yesterday. It was diffused quickly by security, which was important. But, you know, the key is the health and safety. And the fact is that it is a sport, and that ultimately they are professionals. They've got to conduct themselves in a manner. And although it's, you know, a way of sort of getting psychological edges, you know, there is a line, and that line shouldn't be crossed, but it has been crossed.
And lastly, before I let you go, the fans, they always weigh in on everything. And because Sky Sports is putting the fight on and the name is everywhere, they tend to put more responsibility on you guys, maybe for managing these kind of events and the fighters' behavior. But as a network, as a broadcast, how much control do you actually have over that? And are there things that are measures that you intend to take place to make sure these kind of things don't happen again?
I like to look at it that we work in conjunction with Eddie Hearn, our exclusive promoter, you know, Matchroom's promoter, who we work closely with Robert Smith, the General Secretary of the board, Callie Sowland, who promotes Derek Chisora. You know, when there was an issue at Sky and it was dealt with on the spot and no one got hurt and everyone went their separate ways, it's not something we want to see. But after that, there was a full inquiry into how we could deal better with studios and galleries, who can be allowed in, who can be, you know, what can be filmed, all this sort of stuff. And I think, you know, we went back and we talked, we take it seriously. And Robert Smith wanted the footage, he wanted to know what happened, and we made it clear that there wouldn't be a head-to-head between Dylan White and Derek Chisora before the fight. We'd all agreed that. They were at opposite ends of a table. You know, they weren't near each other. You know, no one can predict a table going up, but ultimately it was, you know, we didn't want to put them head to head again. If the fight proceeds, on Saturday and the board don't pull it, or if they fine, I don't know what they're going to do, whether they'll fine Chisora or whatever. But if the fight goes ahead, we make sure that they are weighed in completely separately. They don't meet again until the first bell, and then we're over to a boxing match. And let's hope that that's what we remember it for. Let's hope that it's 12 great rounds, and at the end of it, I have no doubt. Dylan was shaking his head yesterday, but I have no doubt that if they do get to fight and they do 12 rounds and it is conducted professionally and properly, and it's a great fight, I have no doubt that they'll have respect for each other after what they've been through in the ring. That's what we want to see. We don't need to see this sort of behavior outside of it.
And finally, we did see a little bit of it, and Dylan White levied the charge that Chisora made you guys edit the video from the studio when they got into the tussle there. Just for the record, have we seen the full video from the studio and the row there, or has it been shortened?
No, we put out the gloves are off as we saw fit. That's our prerogative as a broadcaster. It's our show. The gloves are off was an idea a few years ago that we thought we'd bring, to the fighters together. We've got great access to our sport, great access to our sportsmen, the best, and it's great having them into Sky, and it's great especially when they conduct themselves in a terrific manner, like Anthony Joshua. We did a press conference on the Sky campus. It was wonderful, Once in a while, there is an issue that you've got to deal with. Okay, you're dealing with human beings, you're dealing with fighters ultimately that have got goals and all that sort of stuff. But we decide what goes out. It's our prerogative, and we put the best possible version of Gloves Are Off out on Tuesday night, and we took the interviews afterwards, and it was an editorially handled show. So that's what we did.
Radio Raheem with Adam Smith. Thank you again for putting on such a performance on Saturday night. We can't wait to see it on Manchester Arena. Anthony Joshua versus Eric Molina. It's going to be a fantastic show. We'll see you there. Thank you, sir.
William Hill sponsors Joshua versus Molina on Sky Sports Box Office.